So in this episode, SpongeBob and Patrick find out about Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, and they're watching their show, and they want to find the real superheroes and reenact their scenes. And the first time they try to, they annoy Squidward and build a fortress that he later breaks down. And then they really discover them. And it's funny seeing their reactions because SpongeBob fails to get in there, and later he actually does, and he says there's evil to put, and Mermaid Man's all like evil, and that's what makes this episode so classic and so funny, is that there's just so many funny moments, and this episode set up what the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episodes were meant to be, good episodes. I can think of one episode that's not good, that has Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy in it, but other than that, yeah, all the episodes are good so far, and this episode is no exception. I mean, it's just hilarious from beginning to end. And in the end, SpongeBob and Patrick try to get a crime scene going, and they want Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy to notice, and then they do, but they're trying to stop them from doing it, and it's just so funny. Because they just want to see them use their superpowers, and they call on all old people, and then they all tackle SpongeBob and Patrick, and it's just so funny. And Barnacle Boy is all like, Mermaid Man sleeps with his eyes open, and I just thought that was so funny. So, yeah, let's get on to the next episode. So number 15 is Squid on Strike. So in this episode, Mr. Krabs makes SpongeBob and Squidward do ridiculous demands, and he even puts up a sign saying $1, I think, for standing and for doing nothing, and it's really funny because Miss Squidward is complaining about how cheap Mr. Krabs is, and SpongeBob's all like, Mr. Krabs is unfair, Mr. Krabs is in there. And it's just so funny. This episode is what a classic episode should be. I mean, literally. And it's funny because SpongeBob has no idea what a strike is, but Squidward does. And SpongeBob doesn't even care that Mr. Krabs is cheap. So you realize that SpongeBob is doing ridiculous things, and then later he saws up the Krusty Krab, and it's hilarious because he's gone way too far in this episode. And later, the Krusty Krab is all destructed, and it's like, and then Mr. Krabs is like closes his eyes, and then he realizes that the Krusty Krab is, and then he's all like, you and Squidward will work for me forever. And it's just so funny. So let's get on to the next episode, guys. So number 13 is SpongeBob Meets the Strangler. So in this episode, SpongeBob gets this wanted poster, and he sees the Strangler, and he's trying to get a bodyguard to save him from the Strangler. But the thing is, he finds this guy, and he's actually the Strangler, and he doesn't realize it because, well, he's kind of dumb. I mean, overall, SpongeBob's made some smart decisions a couple times, but whatever. Um, Anyways, so they go around, and SpongeBob tries to look for the Strangler, even though that is the Strangler, and it's funny to see their reactions, because the Strangler just wants to strangle, and it's just so funny. And it's also funny because this is a tough guy episode, and SpongeBob um doesn't get hurt by him. And it's just funny seeing those kinds of episodes. And later SpongeBob has a party, and the Strangler just wants to strangle, but he just goes sitting down and stuff. And then he has another party, and then the same thing happens. And then later they actually SpongeBob and the Strangler laugh maniacally in his pineapple, and the Strangler just wants to get away from SpongeBob, but Patrick, he barges in, and he's all like, "Wait, I'm the Strangler?" And then the Strangler actually says he's the Strangler, and SpongeBob doesn't even notice. It's just funny because SpongeBob's annoying the Strangler, and it's not annoying, it's not annoying the audience, but it's funny because there's this one joke where SpongeBob sticks his cleats in his sockets after they go shopping, and it's just so funny. And later he actually ends up in jail. So overall, this is a really good episode. So in this episode, SpongeBob gets a box, and it contains a large screen TV, and then he just throws it in the trash. And I found that funny because Squidward really wants it. And then later, SpongeBob plays in the box with Patrick, and Squidward thinks this is all a joke and stuff, but he doesn't realize what SpongeBob said about his imagination. So this is all pretty much fake, and it's a very creative episode. It's not as good as other episodes, but it's very creative. And the writers had a good idea for this episode because SpongeBob keeps saying imagination, and Squidward doesn't really have so much imagination, and that's why he's sort of like he gets his own box, and then since he doesn't have imagination, he can't fit on the box and do stuff he wants to do. And it's really just an episode for kids to watch, not adults really. But it's still really funny seeing Squidward's reactions, and yeah. And also later he watches TV, and it's about boxing, and that was a really good joke because all he can see on TV is boxes, and it's like the programmer, because it was sent in a box, the TV was gonna show shows about boxes, and it's like really funny. So yeah, this is a really good episode, and it's far better than SpongeBob Meets the Strangler. I mean, that episode was funny and all, but it just didn't have the creativeness that this episode did. So overall, a really good episode.